Hey everybody, Star641 here, and welcome to the next video of the Months of Gainax. For this one, we are taking a look at the end of Evangelion. Now, unlike my normal times where I would go into characters, animation, story, and music, this one's going to be a little different. First, I want to get into the background of End of Eva. First up, we need to go into the creator himself, Hideaki Anno, who has done anime for Nadia, The Secret of the Blue Water, which I'll review at a later time, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Karen Kano, which will be the next review. These are three of Anno's things. He's the main creator of Neon Genesis Evangelion, but at the time of creating it, he was suffering through depression, and this really hit home by the second half of the series. So, I will admit this right now, you can really start to tell when the depression's really hitting him, because it gets a lot more psychological and it gets a lot darker, making for one of the most unique anime. Then came the last two episodes, which in my opinion, and I think in many others' opinion, is complete crap. However, people did not like this. They did not like the last two episodes of the TV series, and he got many letters, some of which were death threats and letters of disappointment. He was already not happy with the otaku lifestyle in Japan at the time, but this really did not help. Honestly, I don't like that they used death threats, but what came about it was he decided to recreate a new ending for the series, which became the end of Eva. Now, this sounds all well and good they decided to create this, but here's the thing. End of Eva is a simultaneous final redo the series, and, pardon my language, it's pretty much a fuck you to the rest of the otaku culture, because the end of Eva is by far one of the darkest the series has ever got. Oh boy, if you've ever heard the term kill them all, that's pretty much what happens to a good chunk of the characters here. Lots of people die. Some brutally, some without meaning, some meaningless deaths. In short, this is a really dark and not a happy film. And you can tell on almost Anno's anger, especially since some of the live action scenes of the film include a few of the death threats. You can tell he's pretty pissed. And understandably so, but he also created a very interesting movie that has divided the fan base. Some people either really like End of Evangelion, some people really hate it. So it is a very split the fan base. In that regard, it's almost like Madoka Magica Movie 3. It's a split the fan base one, and it's a continuation of the original series. Oddly enough. Also, it's kind of like Fullmetal Alchemist Conquer Shambhala in some ways, but that's another time. So, now you know Anno's mindset, and you now know that this was generally a very split the fan base one. Now, I'm going to get into a few of the scenes here, so I am going to get into minor spoilers. First up, I need to be very honest here. The characters in here are despicable for the most part. Even characters that I was kind of okay with in the series are downright despicable in this movie. Shinji Ikari. This is the only time I hate Shinji Ikari. Earlier in this series, Asuka had some mental trauma given to her by one of the angels and was pretty much comatose or cantonic. Shinji tries to wake her up and accidentally takes off her shirt. Do you want to know what he does next? He masturbates over her comatose body. I'm dead serious. This is by far one of the most insulting scenes in any anime I've ever watched. And it's the only reason I think Shinji might actually be worse than Yuki Amano from Future Diary. I hate Shinji in this film. Because after that, what does he do? He cowers into a corner for like pretty much half the movie. And the other half he's back to the psychological problems of his bullshit. That's just one example. I could get into more, but I think you guys get it. In short, everything has gone to hell. The angels are gone, but everything's gone to hell. Honest to God, this anime, I don't know how to describe it better than it both is okay, but pisses me off. I don't get it. End of Eva is a very difficult one to review because of it so much split the fan base and because it's so hated by some and so liked by others. And I don't quite know where I fall. I admit this is one of the most interesting films I've ever seen, but in my personal opinion, it's also one of the most insulting films I've ever seen because of some of the content in this. And some of these scenes are either really disgusting and disturbing. By far one of the most cynical films I've ever seen, and it's also one of the most interesting films I've ever seen. I don't know how to describe this any better. I'd say go watch it, but without watching the series first, you will have no idea what the hell is going on, and you'll more than likely hate it. Hell, you might hate it otherwise. I did, at the first watch. And I might have watched End of Eva more times than I'd like to admit. Also, fun fact, this was also helped out with production IG. But you didn't really need to know that. I just thought, why not tell you? Honestly, this is for me the one Gainax show at the moment that has me the most split. I can't say that this is the worst thing I've ever seen, but at the same time, it's really, really not a happy watch and not a comfortable one either. Overall, this movie is difficult to describe, almost impossible. If I were to give it a score, and I pretty much have to, I'm a reviewer, I would give it a 5 out of 10. Because it's a shorter film, and only for that reason, I think it's better than the series. Other than that, the characters are hateable. The animation's good, but then goes to crap in the second half again. It's really cynical and honestly depressing, and the ending is just as bad and, well, not bad, just as confusing and open-ended in the wrong way as the series was, in my opinion. Ultimately, this movie is okay, I guess, in my opinion, but it's not one I'd like to watch often. Anyways, that's all from me. This has been Star 6 Wars 1, and I'd like to get away from Evangelion for a little while. I'll come back to the rebuilt films with the other two rebuilt films I've not reviewed a little later in these next months, but first, I'd like to get away from it for a little while. Next up, let's go with Karen Kano. See you guys then.